everyone, and Happy New Year. It's 2021 and Talent Order are back with our breakfast briefings. This week, I'm joined by Rakhi Chauhan, who has worked as a HR director at Deloitte Global for 14 years and will be discussing the impact COVID-19 is having on the hiring market. Rakhi, thank you so much for joining me this week and for our first breakfast briefing of 2021. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your thoughts on the subject, as I think it's so relevant to so many people at the moment. Before we go into any questions, can you give the audience a little bit of background on your career history so they understand why I may be asking you these questions?
Sure. Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for having me. So yes, a little bit more about me. So I spent 14 years working at Deloitte Global in an HR director role. My areas of specialism were performance management, talent development, talent strategy, the whole gambit across generalist HR. And so I guess right now today we're talking about the hiring market, and I'm assuming my background in HR has got something to do with that.
Absolutely. And how has COVID impacted your employment?
Quite significantly. So I actually left Deloitte voluntarily at the end of, so it was middle of November 2019. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm going to take a short break. So I'm sure like a number of people that may be watching today decided to take a short break, or, thought we had plans for what we were going to do with our time. And so I did. I took a short break. I took some time to just invest into myself again, and, oil painting and, just things I'd never got round to doing. I got to February and I thought I'll start looking for another role now. I was being very fussy as well. And I rightly so, I think. But I found what I thought was the ideal role for me, went through the interview process very smoothly. The final interview happened and it all went very, very well. And then all of a sudden, the government announced that we were going into lockdown and the role was pulled. It was initially put on hold and then it was pulled and I didn't hear a thing. And, for somebody like me who's always been in work and always had this very clear plan and idea of, where I was going to take my career next and all of the steps within my career, this was a really interesting time, let's say, and the whole roller coaster of emotions. But it definitely changed everything for me. And so I spent 2020 essentially I had to put my career on the back burner and really just decide to just focus on myself. And managed to find a role right at the end of 2020. So I'm just about to walk into a new role very shortly. But yes, so definitely a very different year to what I had planned.
Well, congratulations on the new role, firstly. And yeah, awful timing. I completely understand wanting to take a break. And so many people have been put in the same situation. So I've heard quite a few candidates who said, "Oh yeah, I left December 2019 to go traveling. That didn't happen," or they went a little bit and then had to come back. And then obviously it was just really, really bad timing for looking for a role. And luckily things have picked up. But yeah, loads and loads of people in the same boat. So I'm sorry that you had that difficulty. It was a challenging time for many, many people. And so how do you believe the hiring market has been impacted?
I think similar to my emotions over last year, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, and I'd say the same has happened in the hiring market. And you can see it's almost an absolute mirror of everything that we are understanding in the moment as well. So it's for the first time collectively, you're kind of seeing globally at the industry level, at the individual level, everybody is understanding things almost at the same time and moving in the same way. So, for example, the beginning of the year last year, so when COVID first, I was going to say happened, but, I think, when we first went into lockdown, nobody knew what was coming next, right? And so understandably, roles were put on hold. And I think an organization would be foolish to have not put roles on hold. And so, similar to that, we were all on hold. And then I think it's throughout the year, you've just seen that we've all become, and organizations have therefore become a lot more comfortable with the ambiguity that's come, right? And so everyone's just got a lot more comfortable with not knowing what's next. And so you are starting to see a return to business as usual. You are starting to see people more comfortable with their employees working from home. You're starting to see a lot more frameworks and, just tools and resources around helping people manage their mental health, their resilience, working from home, flexibility. And we're finding a way, organizations are finding a way to make it work. And similarly, we are doing so at the same at an individual level. And so it's just a really interesting time. It was significantly impacted. Is it still as significantly impacted? I'd say no. Certainly, I can only speak about my industry and the roles that I've been looking at. I can't speak for every single industry. I just want to make that really clear. I know that everyone's in very different positions. And there were a number of industries that weren't impacted at all, where they saw a spike. So, the organizations that have always been comfortable working in a very virtual environment, so your Facebooks, your Amazons, they continue to hire as they always were. But now I'm definitely starting to see, with the level of comfort increasing around the unknown, and just that level of just comfort that you're seeing around, what we can actually make this work. And you're seeing organizations talking about moving to a hybrid model of working from home. They're reducing on office space. And so it's getting people to think differently, which I think is really great. So that's the upside. But yeah, so I'd say similar to how it's been at an individual level, definitely a bit of a roller coaster, but I think settling down now.
Yeah, I think the initial shock was hugely impacted, and I think most companies recruitment freeze across the board in some cases. And you can understand it. And I think now we are getting more used to it, and it's not looking like things are going to massively change anytime soon. So it's carry on, keep calm, carry on. Because companies still have growth plans, and to do that you need to keep hiring. You did mention ways that the hiring market will adapt. Any other ways that you think the hiring market will adapt?
So I think it is adapting already. And what you're seeing in this period, what I'm certainly seeing, is industries getting really innovative, getting really creative with how they go to market. And so you're seeing different types of roles. You're seeing a different skill set that people are asking for. So I'll give you an example. One of the worst hit industries is obviously fitness. And so what I'm seeing is definitely an increase in the ability to be able to hold classes in a virtual way. And that's a very different skill set, to keep people engaged. And so it's a very small example, but what I'm saying is you're starting to see skills changing. I think the ratio of job seekers to the roles has shifted significantly from where we were in 2019. So, the people organizations may be getting back to business as usual in terms of roles opening again. They've certainly, I think, felt the pressure of doing that. And so I think that you're seeing the roles open up again, but I think because lots of people did lose their roles over 2020, that ratio of job seeker to available roles has definitely shifted. I do think there has been pressure on organizations to open roles again, and that pressure has come from different places. It hasn't necessarily all come from business. It's actually been employees themselves saying this is actually, because this is really difficult. I think the one thing to note, I worked in a virtual role for many years actually before COVID impacted the marketplace. Working virtually actually can take a lot longer to get things done than when working in a face-to-face office environment. And I think as you start to realize that the pressure therefore is increased on people working from home, especially if you've got kids at home with you, you've got partners working from home. In order to alleviate some of that mental pressure on people, I'm seeing organizations starting to build teams to support some of their key workers as well. And so yeah, I think it is already starting with adapting, it's shifting and changing, and it's like sand under your feet. You just need to kind of really keep an eye on what's going on and figure out how your transferable skills fit into what the market's looking for at any point in time, or at any point in time. Yep.
Absolutely. And what advice do you offer anyone looking for new opportunities?
So I'll tell you, obviously when I left Deloitte November 2019, I had not been in the role of a job seeker for 14 years. I hadn't even understood. I mean, it's just been mind-blowing to me and really eye-opening. So if you've always been that type of individual who's been looking for a role whilst you're in role, you probably have a better handle on this than me. But I kind of stepped out into a brand new world. And so it was a whole different ball game in terms of just the types of industries that are available. And, things like fintech didn't even exist when I was looking for a job in 2007 or whenever it was. And so, there's just a whole different ball game. I'll speak from experience in terms of what I did to successfully navigate 2020 and my job search. And you've all probably heard the word patience so much. It's probably, something you just don't want to hear again. But I will say this, that what I realize is that worry and anxiety doesn't help anything. And I mean that in a real sense. So the focus should really be on it's difficult, but if you can get a routine every day, get up every morning and just focus on, just maybe say to yourself, I'm going to apply for 2 or 3 roles today that catch my attention and take action. All you can do is essentially turn up every day for yourself, do the best thing that you can do for yourself, which is taking the action. The worry and the anxiety will add nothing to it. You're not going to get a job any quicker. It's not going to come any faster. And in actual fact, when the interviews do come, you'll probably be in a worse state because you'll be so nervous. You'll feel like I have to get this. And actually, where you can afford to, just try to kind of keep yourself really calm. So I actually built a routine for myself, which involved waking up every morning, early like I normally would do. I would actually do some meditation in the morning. I do some exercise in the morning. I try to be really grateful for the fact that actually I had this free time. And, it was definitely easier when the weather was better. But, being able to be outside every day and take some time for yourself and then balance that with making sure you're taking the action towards applying for, roles and just empowering yourself to try and find that balance. So, try not to get too attached to kind of outcomes. Try to stay as balanced as you can. And really just use the time to focus on developing your knowledge, develop new skills, so that you go back to the market even more kind of rounded in terms of what you can offer. An example of that is I started the Power MBA for myself last year, and I've been reading lots of books on just kind of leadership, just getting myself up to speed. These are things that I was doing, when I was working, but not really for the sake of the organization, not so much for the sake of myself. And I think that's the difference, right? This is the time that you get to really focus on yourself and make it about you. The job will come, a door will open, and it's just about being patient and making sure that you're in the right headspace for when that opportunity arrives.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. And I think that really helps. And I think obviously it's easy to say don't be nervous and all of that. It's a lot easier said than done, but I think it's so important. If you go to a interview, you want to come across as confident. You know, you are doing this for you, and so yeah, focus on retraining, all of that. Really, really good advice. They are all of my questions for today. Thank you so much for taking part. I'm sure our viewers will find it really helpful.